Nerdsplaining podcast. I'm your host, Eric Da Silva. With me, as always, my co-host, Jose Romero.
What it is, what it was. Greetings and salutations, our nerdites out there. It's very exciting time. Very exciting for genre fans like ourselves, which we're going to talk about two big things coming up in June, which I'm excited to talk. We should all be excited based on what we're about to talk about.
This is going to be a real big week in geek.
Yeah,
because
real big. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because we got stuff to say that a lot of people don't have stuff to say about yet. Exclusives. I don't want to brag, but this is what happens when you tune into Nerdsplaining. You're gonna get the cutting edge sometimes. Of the stuff.
That is true. We have been known to give early reactions to a lot of the films. I go early and all that. But Absolutely. This was different. We got about 4 days ago, more or less. I got a chance to see yet another early film, which I was excited about. But this time, was not alone for the first time. And for the first time giving an early review on this show will also be, of course, Mr. Da Silva, who was with me. He traveled down. He was in town when they were just fortunate enough, happened to have doing a screening of The Flash, a very early screening, about a month out.
Right.
So we're both going to talk about it. It's reactions, not review per se. The embargo.
We're not going to spoil anything.
Oh, no, yeah, this is going to be... First of all, we shouldn't spoil because this movie needs to be watched without as little information known as possible. If that's
yes.
But we'll get into that. But first, we're going to get a little appetizer, before we dive into the pool. We want to kind of put a little suntan lotion, get ourselves ready.
Sure.
To help us do that, I did find a little... Let's say nugget or so, but something kind of interesting that caught my attention involving one Natalie Portman. I love Natalie Portman. I have for a long time. She's been around since The Professional. We're talking about
since The Professional,
90s, right? 92,
Black Swan. Excellent movie. She killed in that movie.
Yes.
And then she did some Star Wars. And then she did Star Wars,
and whatever. Everybody makes mistakes, but. We should learn from these mistakes, right? Should we learn from mistakes? We should, right? We all do. No one's
little Thor
perfect.
There, but hey, Thor. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. We'll see.
Absolutely, but she was talking, one of the trades, and I guess, and she was asked about, MCU and Star Wars and all that, and she came out and basically said that she would definitely like, if asked, to go back to Star Wars.
Oh.
Now,
somebody needs a new pool.
Yeah. I'm gonna try to be nice today because I'm very happy, very excited. But let's be frank. I love Natalie Portman, and she's a great actress. She's proven that, right, multiple times.
Yes.
No one's asking you to go back to Star Wars at any point in our lifetime, nor should they ask you to go back to Star Wars, nor should you want to go back to Star Wars to begin with. You got enough money.
Listen, there's only one person that is force insensitive that got to die and come back, and that's Han Solo. You, Natalie Portman, and I love you dearly. You are a talent and a treasure. I once saw you in New York walking by, and I ran past you just to walk by you again. That's how much affinity I have towards you, Natalie. And I'm going to tell you right now, you are no Harrison.
Yeah, you're not at all. I mean, let's assume she is asked. Let's assume that, right? Let's just go worst case scenario. She's asked. I'm not saying this because I dislike her. We've expressed our love for her. There's no place for her anymore in this. I mean, yeah, she died, but which means the only way to bring her back would be in some sort of prequel-esque show, which I've been saying for years I'm tired of seeing. And in the current state of Star Wars, I definitely don't want to see that, and particularly with her. I mean, listen, right? Let's be honest. I liked Return of the Sith. Right, I did like that one. It was fine. It wasn't great, but it was.
I think most people did.
The first two,
right,
are questionable, and I'll leave it at that. Right. So whatever I say about seeing garbage, like seeing Rey again, I don't want to see Rey again because it was garbage. What we got, I don't want to see Natalie Portman because as talented as she is, it was garbage.
I give Rey some slack because we never really got to see Rey do anything. She was more a function of story than character. So I wouldn't mind seeing Rey the character, since I saw her do a lot of story function.
That's fair. Definitely, yeah, Natalie Portman got more to chew on.
She got more character.
And look, I won't blame her for dying of a broken heart, which is I mean, the epitome of shitty writing. But whatever, that's not her fault, right? We'll blame Lucas or wrote that film. But I did like that third movie. To be fair.
I'll take Natalie Portman back only in one situation.
What's that?
Only one situation. They retconned that she had an affair with Obi-Wan.
Maybe.
That's the only way I take Natalie Portman back.
Now here, kids. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, talk about a big no-no. I just kind of make me laugh. I was like, come on, Natalie, you're better than that. You really are there. And she got money. You did Star Wars money. You got MCU money. I'm sure you're doing fine. And if not, then that's your fault at the end of the day. There's no need to go back to that. Well, with that being said, okay, I'm lathered up. Now let's jump into the pool, the deep end right away, Eric. Let's do this. We were excited for it, looking forward to it. So many good things being said out there in the ether before we saw it, whether it be, of course, the great Tom Cruise, who I said in my review had no horse in the race, so I take him for his word. Stephen King, after that, come on, speak highly of it. Who doesn't normally like these kind of films?
Right.
We had James Gunn, but whatever, right? Grain of salt there.
A little biased.
But this was screened, 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe at CinemaCon, and they got great reviews. There was a lot of people saying it's the greatest superhero, one of the greatest superheroes of all time, et cetera, et cetera. Very positive stuff. And I've been hearing stuff and been telling you for months about how people really have been enjoying the film who got a chance to see it early. We finally saw it, and I'll say this. It's not one of the greatest superhero films of all time. But that being said, I just want to let it clear, maybe you think so, I don't know. It's great. For me, and I'd give my review early, so I'm gonna let you take hold here. Again, just more of a reaction, so we're gonna keep very vague and talk around a lot of stuff. As much as I like to talk about this movie, probably would do a spoiler discussion, particularly with the full cut, because another thing I forgot to mention the preface is we saw the same cut that they showed at CinemaCon, which was an unfinished cut, I guess, according to Machete, who came on on screen and presented
apparently could be like a 20 or 25% change
around, which is a significant amount. I'm not sure what that means. There wasn't even, as soon as the movie ended, boom, it just cut to black, fade to black. There was no credits, no end credit scenes. We didn't get that much, so they may add stuff, takes away stuff. And there was reshoots. Is that incorporated here? I don't know. So I'm definitely going to see it. I would have seen it again anyway, but now I'm more curious to see it again, and maybe I'll get another screening of the original cut or the final cut. So that being said, Eric, we'll dance around a lot of this stuff as best as possible, right? No spoilers. I know Machete, there's a story about him releasing the name or a cameo out there. I won't say who it is. I won't do you the dishonor of, telling that story. But if you see something like that, I'd avoid it because it's one of the coolest cameos in the film. You should not have that spoiled for you. So that means we're not going to do it.
Absolutely.
So although it's out there, I only mention it because you may have seen that story. So Eric, with all that being said, your thoughts on The Flash, man?
Hands down, the best superhero movie that's associated to the Spiderverse, not counting all the other movies that are great all by themselves. That is my hands down. It is the best superhero movie DC has put out since Zack Snyder decided to do his version of DC Universe. It is, aside from Shazam, the happiest and most fun DC movie they've done. This is not a big spoiler. It's just tone and severely fun. Is it, in all reality, is it the greatest superhero? No, it's not. When we left the theater, I was pointing out a few things that I felt were problems with, like, oh, this should have been better and they could have done this and that. But overall, in terms of experience, the most fun DC movie you'll see. That I could say. It is the most fun. More fun than Shazam, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. This is most fun. I think we both agree. It's the best DC film, from the DCEU era. Right, I know
that is connected to the Spiderverse.
I think any DC release since forget Nolan. I think past Nolan, this might be the best thing they've done. Personally,
you know what? I feel like I want to agree with you that because Wonder Woman was really solid. And Shazam
Wonder Woman was really good. Solid. I like Shazam. I'm a big fan of Man of Steel. This Suicide Squad James Gunn's version is great, but that's more of a niche film. That's not for everybody, right? Flash hits more the 4-quadrant film than Suicide Squad.
It really did. And it's the kind of thing where every type of person is going to enjoy this movie for
Exactly.
some type of
Right,
reason.
exactly.
They kind of hit all the markers about like, is this? It's almost a little bittersweet because a lot of the complaints of what people wanted DC to be, the movie starts off going, "Hey, we figured it out," and now the Flash, and now this movie happens.
It took them a while, but I mean, but listen,
knows?
this is something that could springboard. This is what the DC should be doing because as good as like Man of Steel is and Wonder Woman and Shazam is very fun, but most of those films early on just lacked fun, right? And I'm not saying they're not good.
Yeah.
They just weren't
It
fun.
was a slog
Right.
fest of misery.
This one brought the fun back, what you want to see out of a superhero film
Now,
without sacrificing good story,
granted,
humor.
there, for me at least, I did need about 15, 20 minutes to get past the Ezra Miller of it all. I get it.
That didn't. I mean, obviously, I had. You walk in like, okay, whatever, right? Leave that at the door. It is what it is, right? It's a similar problem which MCU may soon find itself in.
Possibly.
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Sure.
But leave it at the door. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, like I said, for me, it took about 15, 20 minutes. And after that, I just took the movie for as is. And and honestly, dude, guys, ladies, nerd ladies, all the nerd people of all the genders and whatever's, when Michael Keaton shows up, you're in. Like at that point, you're like
Michael Keaton. I mean, come on. I mean, we'll leave it at that. Again, we're not dancing around a lot of stuff. Which
it's not. We're not ruining.
No, we'll mention stuff that's in the trailers, obviously, and all that stuff. And
I will say something. One of the things I've always said about if you're going to dissect the Spiderverse, one of the few things I liked about the Spiderverse was in Batman v Superman is watching Ben Affleck's Batman take down criminals in the warehouse. For a long time, I was like, I think this is one of the best Batman action sequences I've seen in a long time. I kind of feel like this movie gives that movie a run for its money if it does not surpass. There's one scene involving Michael. Right.
I will say this. I think that the Batman v Superman scene is better viscerally, but this scene is more of what you expect to see out of a Batman comic animation, right?
And
you see what I'm saying?
That is something that this movie made me realize. I've seen in all the like the Nolan movies, that kind of stuff. You've seen Batman in a very street level, type of action scene, which is great. Not taking anything away from anything we've seen, but and maybe this is something that James Gunn's going to utilize with Batman: Brave and the Bold, which is we're going to get a little bit more bombastic action Batman sequences. And if this movie indicates where that's going to go, I'm so.
Oh no, yeah, it was great. I mean, it was God, it was so cool. I mean, it's just a lot of a movie filled with great moments. There's a lot of deep cuts, particularly if you're a true cinephile, right? There's a running gag involving an older film. I'll leave it at that, right? And to those in the know, and you know what I'm talking about, Eric, it's genius. It really is. To those who are not in the know, it's so interesting. But if you know the background behind that whole reference, it's gold. Absolute gold.
By the way, that being said, being a cinephile, especially, and this is what I was going to bring up as well. This movie really plays towards not only cinephiles but nerds who have been reading like trades and the movies that could have been with the who'da was would have been and all that kind of stuff. This movie really hopes you understand it and pays off any of this knowledge you've been carrying for years about. So I will say this: if you're just a person going to see a movie, you'll like the movie.
No doubt.
Said, it is a solid. It is a solid movie. It's not the greatest, but it is a solid movie. But if you are in the know, this movie takes it to a whole other level. And so
I'll say I'm surprised because on this it goes back to the Muschietti comment where he spoiled one of the cameos, right? And I'll keep it vague, but I thought that cameo was pure CGI, and from the way he's describing it, it wasn't, and I didn't know that. I was like, oh, it made it even.
Yeah, I thought it was CGI
right, and then it seems like it's not, and I was like, oh snap, that's even better, right? That's amazing. It's genius.
That just makes me want to watch the behind the scenes documentary now to see how they pull that off.
it's so unexpected, right? And it seems
And
out of
they
left
go,
field, but it makes so much sense for that to be in there. Incredible.
and for that appearance in the circumstance that they presented in,
Yeah.
once again, you got to be in the know to really appreciate what you're seeing. But when you see it, like, I think you and me were like one of the few people who actually laughed out loud because we got the reference. We're like, oh, they're doing the thing.
That was amazing. As soon as you see it, like, oh my God. I mean, I was like a smile ear to ear. It was fantastic. It was so well done. Look, Muschietti, if Warner Bros. is wise, you know, he's done It for parts 1 and 2, which did very well from. This was really good. This is a great movie. It's a great movie, right? It's not one of the greatest. But honestly, they need to keep him, give him something else in DC.
Honestly, because Gunn is doing Superman and Muschietti's done It and The Flash, I kind of want to see him do Authority.
You know what? I will be completely okay with that. Like, if that's the announcement, great. I mean, anything they give him based off this, I will be completely happy. You know what? Fantastic. Let's see what it can do with X, right?
Because he knows how to do serious. He knows how to make the drama. And even this movie, there are dramatic, impactful moments. And it doesn't come off cheesy. It plays it real. But it also knows how to have fun and make it that big, bombastic summer action movie that you want to watch. To me, I could really see him doing the Authority, where all the big superhero stuff comes off really fun, but when it gets dirty and nitty, it plays just as well, and he knows how to handle the tone shifts. I mean, when I finished watching it, the more I've been thinking about it, I was like, I wouldn't mind him seeing him doing the Authority. I think he'd be a solid.
Listen, Muschietti gets it. He absolutely gets it. What
really does. These
kind of movies should be like, right? He's not the only one. I mean, he is one of many who get it, but he gets it, understands what he needs to do. The emotional hit moments really hit. Everything hits here. It's such a great movie. It was such a good time. I was so surprised. I really liked it. This may be one of my favorite movies of the year. I'm go back between this and Guardians. I don't know which I like better. I might like this one. This one stayed with me more than Guardians did, only because I like this story more than what Guardians' story was.
I liked Guardians more. I'll be honest. Here's the thing. I think you're biased because you have an Obi-Wan, Michael Keaton Batman fix. And that's the thing I noticed. People who love Michael Keaton walked out of that theater like they've just been rewarded for a lifetime's journey. And I get it. But if I'm going to go movie, for me, I put Guardians above Flash. Not that Flash is worse. I just like Guardians a little bit more. I think
Guardians is maybe more entertaining, I guess. But just for me, I always go back to story. I always have to go back to the story, right? It could be the most entertaining film in the world. You got to enthrall me with the story. I think this one had a little more to it than Guardians. Not worlds apart. We're clutching at straws here, right? We're nitpicking.
I disagree. I happen to think you have Michael Keaton rose-colored glasses on, and that's fine.
I mean, the story. Look, the Guardians story for me was very simple, and it was fine. It didn't need to be anything more than it had to be, right? But it's not a complex story by any stretch of the imagination.
I think that's why I liked it. It was so simple. I
get it. It was simple, right? But this is more intricate, and they handled what could have been a disaster. Like what Endgame did with time travel was terrible. I said that from the beginning. It's horrible. What they did here really worked, and they gave a.
You actually said it. You leaned into me. You're like, I love the way they explained that.
Explain it, and it makes sense, right? It's based on the gravity they created, and that makes sense, right? Because we've seen the explanation they're going towards. We've seen that kind of thing 1,000 times, right?
Which, by the way, now that we're talking about it, both movies reference the same movie as a startup point, which I now think is even funnier.
It is.
But their version of the movie, which makes it even funnier because it's not the version.
Exactly. Very funny. It's kind of funny how to do that. But for me, again, whatever, one or the other, they're both great at the end of the day, and that's fine, right? This hit, man. This really hits. It's a good time. I highly recommend this one, big time. You guys are really gonna enjoy it.
2 big thumbs up.
I'm kind of curious because I had 87%. You had 90%. I think it's gonna be closer to you than me at this point. We were both off on Guardians. I had 90 and 91. It came out 80, 82. I think that last number I checked. A lot lower than we thought. I could see very high 80s or low 90s on this one. I'd be shocked if it was anything other than that, to be honest with you. I really would.
I'm right there with you.
So absolutely, run to the theaters. Get it? But I will do a spoiler talk. I'm so curious.
If you are, by the way, if you're one of those people who like, I can't support certain people and certain things, I
Sure.
totally get it. Just wait until it comes to streaming, but make sure you buy a big TV by the
Oh
time
no,
it
yeah,
hits.
it looks
So
great. You know, yeah,
budget
fantastic.
yourself
The
because
the
it's
third act
worth
is fantastic. It's so much cool shit.
on the big
Yeah.
screen. It is
Oh my god.
so worth it,
Absolutely.
man.
Yeah.
IMAX it if
Yeah.
you can. It's
Really is.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Visually,
I can't wait to talk
fantastic.
about and then see the differences between what we
Yeah,
saw. Maybe
absolutely.
something small, maybe a lot. Who knows, right? But I'm curious what changes come about, particularly in the end. That's something that might get tweaked. I have a feeling. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, so absolutely, so good time, Eric. Glad you were there and you got to enjoy it and participate
Thank you
this
for
time
giving me
around.
the
A lot of times
opportunity.
it doesn't happen. I see it, I talk about it. You just kind of have to wait
Sure.
and see. But yeah, so fantastic, and we'll stay tuned for more of these. Hopefully down the road, we'll change a little some gears. Excuse me here. Away from the MCU and DC for a moment. I'm gonna pepper in a little independent story here, kind of. Mr. James Cameron.
Uh-huh. Which, by the way,
Sorry.
just to let you know, speaking of movies real fast, I've been hearing really great things, and I know you're going to be seeing a sneak peek of it, so I can't wait to hear your reaction of Spiderverse.
We're going to get into that very shortly. Yeah, we're going to get into that very
Great.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to end with that. But so we have James Cameron, right, who is, in terms of box office, the greatest director of all time. It's inarguable at this point. He's got 3 of the top 4 movies of all time, all above $2 billion. The conversation ends, right? Just box office. Nobody gets excited, right?
He is king of the world. Box office wise, he's the king of the world.
It is what it is, right? I mean, 3 of the top 4 films. That's crazy. It really is crazy. By one director. I think those 3 movies probably outshine.
Even the Russo brothers got to split it.
Right, exactly, and they only have 1 in the top 5. So hey, good for him. But interesting enough, of course, he created the Terminator and all that, and did Aliens too, Aliens anyway, et cetera, et cetera. And he was talking at some tech conference, and he had mentioned that over the last 3 months, he has been writing a new Terminator film. Interesting, and he talked about how the focus should be more on the AI as opposed to the machines, and he's kind of waiting to see how AI progresses in the next couple of years. I guess he didn't specify that much, but how it progresses for him to kind of complete the script. So I'll ask you this, Eric, because this franchise has done it to us so many times. And I don't know, and I'll go with the assumption that Cameron will not be directing if they were to make another one move forward, right? Is him writing alone, is this enough to get us back into...
First of all, I got to tell you, when it comes to Terminator, I can't trust James Cameron because, like, 2 of those sequels, he was like, this is the movie. No, it wasn't. It wasn't the movie.
We can't take his word for it.
You told us it was going to be, and it was not.
He had to get paid, right? Which is why we didn't trust James Gunn before.
I guess so. Here's the thing about James Cameron that I will say, unless you make Skynet the new Chat GPT, unless that's what it is.
It'd be an interesting angle.
It would be. If you're focused on the AI, that's
right, of course, right?
It is right now.
I just don't know. Listen, the only thing that gives me just the slightest hope is that Predator was along the same lines as Terminator, right? We've been dragged through the mud, right?
That was exactly my next point.
Other who you keep dumping, bringing back. Hopefully she changes. She doesn't. The same shit, but they gave us Prey and okay.
You know what? Honestly, this would be the best version of the next Terminator movie. Show us Skynet taking over. The entire movie is Skynet.
Yeah, I think that the whole time travel thing.
Humanity's got to lose. We lose. The movie ends with John Connor with his first win. That's the end of the movie. Maybe he meets Reese for the first time. Who knows? But it's that's it.
Meeting Reese, didn't we? No, we saw young Reese in Salvation.
Young Reese, yeah. But they said that movie they're not counting, right?
I don't know. If they're gonna retcon everything, I guess you can't. There's only so much you can do with this property. That's the problem. Even with Prey, Predator, there's only so much you can do. They just executed really well in Prey. Go back in time, and here we go. Send that robot back. We've seen that 100 times.
Right, because if you remember, I think they you turned Reese into a cyborg too. Like he wasn't a real dude because he died or some garbage like that.
I don't know.
Right, or John Connor became the cyborg. Right. So I don't know. Here's what I want. I want the bombs go off, everything gets destroyed, and they're living underground. It's like 50, and then you see them like a montage of like the next 15 years of them like surviving, building that kind of stuff, coming back out, and then being met with the Terminators, and them Skynet wiping out these pockets of humanity, and it's getting smaller, 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 and all their leaders are falling down, and John Connor steps up and starts to inspire people, and the movie ends with his first win. Like, and Skynet doesn't understand why. Like, it doesn't compute
I don't
why.
know if that's gonna work.
That's the only way that movie would, like, for me, I would give a crap is seeing that, because that's the one thing we haven't seen. Even the one way we see him meet Reese, it was already like 25 years in. He had been a hardened soldier. I don't want to see that. I want to see him figuring it. You know how, like, when you watch Breaking Bad, you're watching him become Heisenberg. Like, I want to see him winning just the first big battle. That's it. It's not. It's and just like the rumors, like the rumor and the legend of John Connor starts from there. That's what I would like to see.
There's no stakes in that because we know what happens. It's hard, right? You go back to doing somewhat of a prequel kind of thing, or just do a reimagining of the Terminator with AI. But you can focus more on like no more John Connor, just a brand new story with the same premise, but focusing more on the future kind of thing, as opposed to you can do the past stuff later, right? Sending someone back if the franchise, if this movie takes off, okay, now let's build off that, fine, right? But we know the story of John Connor. We've seen it. We know it. We know it's Skynet, and they tweaked that story a couple times. It's
but
the
you
same
know what?
thing.
There's something to be said about the human drama of perseverance and overcoming, that you could tell this story and make it really interesting. Just like we know there's tons of predators because we've seen Predator 2, where they have the skulls of everything, and he had that gun with that came from the Spanish pirate. Like, we knew they existed in the past. Then Prey came out and just showed us what that was like. So since we already know the way future and we know what started, show me John Connor rising up to become John Connor.
Salvation gave us some of that, so that's why I'm not at this point. Listen, I don't care what story they come up with. If James Cameron's directing, then fine.
That's the only other thing that'd be
fine. Go back to the well.
Yeah.
At least we know who executed properly, right? And I'm okay with that. So I don't know. Let's see. This may not turn out to be anything, but he is writing, and James Cameron has a lot of pull. Obviously, he's got carte blanche.
All I'm saying is, this movie needs to have chat SKY.
That would be interesting, and then maybe that's something with the AI he's referencing to and all that. So maybe, but I don't know. Let's see. But I can't get excited. But I would love to, and I would only if Cameron says I'm the okay, now we're in business.
Sure.
Now you got my attention. Right?
Terminators in water. That's what you do.
Terminators in water. Fight the Navi, and Ivy go back in time. Whatever. I'll buy it. I don't care.
Like, honestly, Terminators versus Navi, I kind of watch that.
Right? Come on, that's a fair fight. That's what I'm saying. The next story. Let's go back to the MCU for a second. This one is a story that's not really been talked about, and it kind of outlines the whole issue with what we've been saying about the MCU over the last couple of phases, right? The last couple of years, whatever. And that's a lack of direction. And this story kind of exemplifies that. In a way, I'm surprised because with Kevin Feige at the helm, one thing he's been known to do is have that direction long term, right? He has a plan, 10 years or whatever it is, and it's just a matter of executing it. So there were stories regarding Jonathan Majors. We know what's going on with him, and everything's on a hold. And there was a trailers for Loki. He's been, they don't even show him in the trailer. They didn't even put him in the press release. So who knows what's going to happen? I don't know. They may have to make changes. It is what it is, right? Or they might as a mid part of it. Who knows? But there was a reporter, Joanna Robbins, her name, in the know, talking about Jonathan Majors and how they came up with the whole Kang thing to begin with. And apparently, when they had him in Loki, filming Loki, they had him filming Ant-Man, and they were looking at the dailies of his performance. And they liked him so much, like the light bulb hit, and they're like, oh, this is the guy we're going to build around in terms of Kang down in the future. Okay. Makes sense, I guess, because he was really good as Kang, right? Fine. But my issue is like, wait a minute. You were already filming Quantumania when you finally decided to make this into a Kang dynasty. So what was the plan before you saw this? right? Where were they going? Which explains exactly this rudderless MCU we've seen. I mean,
Well, I think a lot of people forget this. Human memory is selective. If I remember correctly, and you let me know if you remember this as well, Feige literally said after phase 3, we're not doing phases anymore. We're just going to do movies with little mini milestones. Problem is, you trained a culture to take phase. And you trained every comic book fan to go, that's not true, because you map things out 6 months to a year in advance, and then you have a summer blockbuster that takes all those storylines from all the different books and makes one big thing, and then that storyline presets everything for the next year. And so there's always you can't just do a runner. You can't take an off year.
Right.
You're not a 20-year-old who's trying to figure out what he's going to do with his life. Like you are a controller of $1 billion enterprise. You need to have a plan. And so much so that now even he's calling it phase 4, phase 5.
Exactly.
When he told us no more phases. Screw you, Kevin Feige. You phased it and you make a story. Tell us the thing that we want to hear. So that's the thing. So many people became so into structure that when Kevin Feige had to break off, it became Godfather 3. We pulled them back in. You make these phases and you make it work. So that was on Feige thinking he could break away from the monster he created.
And obviously, it has not worked. And this is a Kathleen Kennedy move, right? This is a clear Force Awakens moving into Last Jedi, moving to Rise of Skywalker, right? Not having a plan.
He got cocky.
Whatever happened.
After Endgame and No Way Home, he's like, I can't do anything wrong. I am a golden god. And you're a really competent dude. And competent dudes have to plan. Golden gods can do whatever they want because they can't do any wrong.
Right. This is the monster he created, right? And he announces, I don't know, 5 years worth of films or whatever, 3 or 4 years worth of films. They're all scheduled. So he had all these movies mapped out with no pun intended, no end game, right? If you were already filming Quantumania, which is like the, I don't know, 5th film after Endgame, maybe more, and not to mention the series, like where were you going with this to begin with? You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, Kang, now he got it. Like, why wasn't that done before, right? So Kang was a fluke, basically. They put in Kang for Quantumania and Loki just to, he's a cool little character, and then you build. That doesn't work. It does not work.
According to that logic, he should have seen the dailies from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and go, oh, High Evolutionary, he's the bad guy because this dude is killing it. Like,
it's odd. It's just because this is un Kevin Feige like. It's weird that, I mean, Ant-Man came out in February, so we got 2 years with the films and shows, right? And until they saw these dailies, there was no plan. Like, what? It's odd. I thought Quantumania was there to set up. This is multiverse or enforce that, and it really was. They were just making Quantumania to make Quantumania and put in a character called Kang.
I think because remember around this time, Feige was also contract negotiating as well for another 10-year contract. So I think it was like, yeah, we'll just do a bunch of movies. I mean, if you don't want to pay me,
it's really
whatever.
Weird. And now that now they got the plan. None of that may come to fruition, right? Because if they decide to do it because of Jonathan Majors, if he's not there, can they really move forward with Kang without him? Or they have to put everything on hold. So what does that mean? Because
technically, you got the writer's strike.
You got the writer's strike anyway, but it doesn't mean Jonathan Majors will be. I mean, it's going to go to try. Who knows? This could drag out for a while. We don't know, right? They don't know either, which is why they're just kind of in a holding pattern. But these movies are still getting made, right? We're still getting movies next year and the year after. It's not like they're saying we're going to cancel everything. So,
there's a lot of delays. They're pushing back. So, I mean, it gives them a little bit of wiggle room, a little bit.
I guess.
But here's the thing I'm thinking is that, first off, if Jonathan Majors gets found not guilty, it's all golden.
Sure,
not a
absolutely.
problem. If Jonathan Majors does get found guilty, I mean, luckily, much like the Flash movie, there are variants. We've established that in Loki as well, that there are variants. So you could pick and choose who to be a thing and kind of make a work around it. But here's the thing. Jonathan Majors, problematic or not, his talent is monstrous.
There's a reason why they said let's use him for Kang, right?
That's exactly it. So now, like, what are the odds of finding someone who at least has got 3/4 of that talent
That's what
ready
I'm
to
saying.
go.
And yeah, the story. Yeah. So I was very odd when I heard. I was like, man, so they didn't even know. And that just like, oh, that explains it all. They had no plan.
It did
Yeah,
explain
it
a
explains a
lot.
lot. They have
It
no
did
plan for
explain
the
a lot.
MCU.
Yeah.
It is what it is, and that's why you got a lot of ups and downs with it over the last 2 or 3 years with it, and it is what it is, right? So yeah, it's interesting. Now that this whole major thing is really taking a different turn, and now it's
If
like, let's see
anything,
what happens with his.
if anything, this experience and watching how James Gunn is structuring the DCU with chapter one kind of stuff is gonna let Marvel know we need phases. From now into infinity,
You need
we need
phases because these
phases.
movies build towards stuff. That's the whole point of these films, right? They're
Yeah.
building towards something. If you're not building towards anything, why even have phases at all, right?
Why do the
Right. It
movies?
doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Just do individual
This
films.
is not
and,
the early 2000s where different
Right.
studios own different properties. Everyone's doing that. Those days are gone. Now that you're consolidating your heroes, you
And
need
particularly since you're
end
still-
games, you need goals, you need milestones
Of course.
to get to
and
those
you're
things.
doing this interconnectivity between these films. Okay, if you're gonna do that, then you can't just put people just for the sake of putting for cameos, fake, right? You're building a story, right? You're having this character in this movie, and etc.
Mind you, to cut a little slack as well, this may have been a Chopek situation where because Chopek was like, I need a bunch of IP now. I need a content now that he just did a bunch of stuff out to buffer out until they figured it out.
Whoever has the blame is the blame. It happened, right? It is what it is, right? And it's
Sure.
just something that we weren't used to out of the MCU. This was all DC nonsense,
Right.
and that exactly what you got at DC prior. That's exactly
yeah.
a couple of good films, a bunch of shitty ones, and now MCU's kind of finding. Yeah, Guardians was great, but again, even you agree, it's not really part of whatever.
It doesn't contribute to the multiverse
Right,
side.
it's
It's just a good
it's its
standalone
own thing, and that's great. End off the trilogy, wonderful, right? The swan song for James Gunn, if you will. So I'm kind of curious what happened. Now this whole John Majors thing takes a different level in terms of, okay, how would this affect it if things go bad? Which it could. I don't know. I'm not listening. Let the system run its course, right? That's what it's for. Let them figure it out. We just look at the aftermath after the fact. But yeah, so fascinating. So, but it is what it is. But when on a very positive note here, because Spiderverse, as you alluded to earlier, I'm watching it on next week, very soon. Not too early as I'm used to, but it is with Sony's kind of stingy with that shit. But obviously, it got screened already. And listen, we knew June was gonna be a big month, and we saw one of the films already with the Flash, and yay, right? And all signs point towards yay for Spider-Man into Spider-Verse 2.
That is exciting.
Which is very exciting. And if this ends up being better than Flash and great. I'm pleased. Because if it is, that means this movie's fucking awesome. Right? Let's be honest. Because you have to be on a different level to be better than those two films, as far as I'm concerned, right?
Absolutely.
Like wow.
They really did set a very high bar.
And that's a great thing. Even this movie is just very good. This might be the best streak in superhero films have gotten in a while, right? Because Guardians was okay, but they were really good films, and this is really good. 3 great movies sequentially in terms of release with superhero films. That's awesome.
I mean,
that's awesome.
If I read a review for Spider-Verse that said this movie almost becomes art on how good it is. Like it is almost an artistic experience instead of just a movie-going experience.
I'll read some of these. I got a few of them here as far as the reactions on Twitter and whatever social media. This came from like a lot of known people. Screen Rant, for example, a game. I forgot the name of that big website. Whatever. Collider, a bunch of big sites that do movies. This isn't Joe Nonsense guy from down the street, right?
Right.
So this is one quote from Eric Goldman. I'm very happy to say that Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is fantastic. Definitely juggles deeply heartfelt character beats with crazy multiverse contests, just packed with so many delightful Easter eggs. Loved how Gwen's story expanded. Can't wait for the third one. We got another one here. It's honestly absurd how good Spider-Verse movies are. Across the Spider-Verse is just as great, if not better, than Into the Spider-Verse. I really don't know how. The hype is real. Every frame. 1 second, I lost this one here. Every frame. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is gorgeous. I didn't want to blink because I didn't want to miss anything. You can watch this film over and over and find something new to enjoy. So many surprises I was not expecting. Across the Spider-Verse is from comicbook.com is simply an incredible accomplishment. Stunning, but also very much unfinished story by its end. Visually is such a stunning achievement. It's everything a Spider-Man fan could ask for and much more. See, what Spider-Verse movies are doing with the multiverse storytelling visually and thematically is putting every other superhero movie's attempts to shame, with The Flash being the closest second, but still behind it. So this one, I compare it to Flash, you also saw Flash, obviously. That's high praise. Across the Spider-Verse is yet another milestone for animation. Yes, it's gorgeous and visually mind-blowing, but this sequel surpasses the first for always putting Miles and his family front and center. Spider-Gwen also rightfully steps deeper into the spotlight, co-owning the film. Last one, okay, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse lives one step above masterpiece. It's an actual work of art. Every frame, you are alluding to Eric, every frame deserves to be hung in a museum. The jokes and nods to Spidey lore are perfect. It's outstanding. The best Spider-Man movie. Might be my favorite movie ever. Cherish it. Bold words. So, I mean, and I always say take this with a grain of salt because it is an initial one, but it's not just good praise. And then you're saying it's good. They're saying it's, I mean, wow, right? This is the same reaction we heard from Flash, right? It's the greatest thing of all time, right?
Right. Right.
Kind of. I mean, right? It wasn't, but it was still very, very, very good.
Once again, so I will say this, and this is what I'm thinking of. Whenever people say, "Oh, superhero fatigue," the bubble's gonna burst. It's not that. It's that what superhero movies do so well is take the preconception of a story or a movie trope that you know, and they flip it on its head. They give you something so new and interesting that it blows your mind. Like, wow, like take it back all the way down to like Iron Man or Captain America Winter Soldier. Those movies were not the world universe is ending. It was just they did something bigger and better than you expected it to be from using the superhero contrivances to tell this story. You want to keep people in excitement for superhero games? Tell good movies. That means tell a good story, have the visuals be up to par, make it look like a movie, have the acting be committed, and people are going to tune in because superhero movies aren't a genre. Superhero movies tell love, spy, horror, action. It's everything, just with the contrivance of a dude in a suit or a chick who can fly. That's all it is. So as long as you're telling a good story and you are committed to telling the best version of that story, people are going to tune in. People are going to talk about it. People are going to want to do more. When you do good work, everyone pays off.
Yeah, it goes back to having a good story, right? The solid foundation of any film, comic book or whatever, right? It's a good story. If you don't have a good story, it can be visually great or whatever. Black Adam's an example, right? Not a great story. It was still a fun flick. It had some cool shit on screen. It was fine. But it lacked the story, right? The essence of the character, those moments. Flash had those moments. Guardians had those moments, right? We're like, man, you got invested in what's going on. You're like, damn, very heartfelt moments and all. That's the first Spider-Verse had that in spades. Great. I love the first one. I think it's probably the best Spider-Man I've seen, right? In film, animated or not. This one, I mean, if this is true, these guys are legit. I mean, again, I take it with a grain of salt because people get excited and knee-jerk reactions. I get it. But, man, if this is as good as Flash, better than Flash, goddamn, we all should be very excited at the end of the day.
June looks spectacular.
I mean, just with these two, we got stuff on TV coming out. Indiana Jones, it hasn't gotten great reviews, unfortunately. Concerning, but...
I'm still on the fence because he premiered at con. If Indiana Jones would have premiered at Cinema Fest and those were the same reviews, I would be concerned.
I would be, but again, it's some of the same people I've read and tried to even review this and The Flash. I don't know. It's something to be said about that, for whatever it's worth. Right? I'm not saying it's going to be a bad movie, but the excitement is kind of the wind taken out of the sails, as opposed to this, where now you're like, now you're jacked. You're like, oh, shit.
Right.
There's a lot of high praise here that people are throwing out there, talking about masterpiece and all these outstanding. And again, if it's better than the last two we've seen in terms of superhero films, wow. I mean, this movie has to be phenomenal.
Might be movie of the year.
And that's great, right? I don't let it be better than Guard. Let it be better than Flash.
Yeah,
fine by me. That just means it's great. If it's just as good as those, just the same. Fantastic, right? Great. 3 great superhero films, and come on, we don't get that all the time, and it's rare, right? And talking about great, and this one is better than those last two, a masterpiece. Then we can say in the conversation one of the best of all time.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's I would love to come on and say that. All right, bro. Now this is one of the greatest of all time. This is up there with Winter Soldier, Infinity, Dark Knight, Logan. In that realm, right? That pantheon of
Right.
Consensus best films in whatever order you want to put them in terms of comic books. Fuck yeah. Hell yes. And even Spider-Man, I'll probably put top 20. The Spiderverse, the first one, potentially. Absolutely. Right? I mean, I got think about it, but I if I say top 20, if someone tells me right now, I'm like, okay. Even top 10, I'll be like,
I think Spider-Verse is top 10.
It could be. Like I said, I'm okay. I'm not gonna argue. I'm gonna have to really think about it, but right now it's not like you're crazy. If you say top 5, like, let's slow down. But top 10,
sure.
Okay, yeah. Fine. For me, I can say comfortably top 20, just comfortably. Top 10, maybe. Easy. Top 10, maybe. You're right. And if this one's better than that, now you're talking about that level, Logan level. I can't wait for this, man. I'm super excited. I'm still waiting out here for that, to see that one with me down here. So, but yeah, obviously I'll see that. I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday. I forget. So I'll have the review up that night, and then we'll talk about it next week, of course. And spoiler free. Let you know if it's the deal. We know the bar's been set. Right? The bar, it's been held by 2 films right now.
Yeah.
Right. Can it pass it? Just whatever. That's fine. As long if it goes under those 2, I'll be disappointed, to be perfectly honest. Based off the hype. I'm saying.
If it's on the same level, I'm fine. I'm happy.
I'm fine with that. No, but say if it's below level, Flash, if it's below Guardians, I'll be a little bit let down, to be honest with you.
A little bit of but once again, not the sky's falling.
No, of course not. Of course
not. I was kind of for a little bit more. Still good.
Yeah, still good. It was a good tier 2, solid. Okay.
Right.
Laurent. Based on what I'm hearing, I expect tier 1.
Yeah.
Right now.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
There's no question, and I hope we do, and it looks like it. So yeah, this is a good time for us, man.
And if anything, all the studios, Marvel, Sony, DC, if you guys have all knocked it out.
Yes.
Like back to backs. This is the example.
I don't know if that's happened before.
Not Morbius.
I don't know if that's happened before.
Spiderverse.
Yeah.
It's not Justice League. It's the Flash.
Right?
It's not Eternals. It's Guardians Volume 3.
I mean,
that's what we have to strive for.
I'm trying to think if I have to go back and check, and maybe I will to the next show if we'll talk about it. But if this is the first time they've all hit out of the park in the same year.
That would be a tremendous accomplishment.
I'm assuming it is.
It has to be, because no other Spider-Verse movie has been good enough to compete. I mean, maybe if you talk Shazam and Wonder Woman, like I said,
I gotta see
maybe
because we had Spider-Verse, Infinity War came out the same year, so that's 2. I don't know what DC had that year.
I know that Wonder Woman came out the same year as Black Panther, but, so that was.
Let me see. I can check right now.
Was it Black Panther?
Infinity War released. I'm trying to see when that got released, just to get an idea what else got released.
Infinity War, I think, was like 2018, and then Endgame was 2019, right?
Yeah, but Spider-Verse came out the same year as Infinity War. So
okay.
That would go superhero movies in 2018. I'm just kind of curious. You may be right. Maybe it's Wonder Woman. But that's 5 years ago. Venom, Aquaman. No, I'm not putting Aquaman. I like Aquaman, but I'm not putting that level. Black Panther, but again, that's Marvel, right?
Well, yeah, a Marvel.
No, we had Infinity War, whatever. But I think it was Infinity War. But I'm talking about as far as all 3 of them. No, like DC, Sony, and Infinity War. I mean, and
right.
Marvel, Sony, and DC all 1 year. Nope, because there was Aquaman, and Aquaman's not on that level. I like Aquaman, but it's not there, right? It's not Flash.
Yeah. Put it this way. I think we talked. We weren't doing the show back then, but probably we talked. We were surprised Aquaman did financially as good as it did, because it made no sense.
That movie it banked and it caught whatever, it caught fire with the audience, and whatever, it is what it is. Or people liked it, fair enough.
That movie made money because Jason Momoa is a likable.
Yeah, the girls went because he's hot. I get it, can't blame them, but whatever. Oh, Venom came out the year, right? Yeah, but there was no DC film aside from that. So yeah, this might be the first year we get all 3 knocking out of the park. This is new territory, new ground. And that's great. That's what we want, right? We don't want these movies to suck. I don't care who it is, right? Bring them all out.
So short of a national or global tragedy, 2023 might be a great year because we have
Yeah,
three great superhero
this year
movies
has been great. I
in
said
the
that,
same year.
you know, and this only goes to show, right? You watch. Well, we haven't seen Spider-Verse, but fine, fair enough. But we assume this legit. This really puts a spotlight on how bad Ant-Man was. When you look at these other films,
It
you're
really
like,
does.
No.
Oh,
Right?
by the way, I have to tell you something. I met a dude who does not go to movies very often. He's busy with work and everything else, and he told me, "Hey, you know what's on Disney Plus? Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania." I was like, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I just watched it for the first time. I was getting ready to hear all the complaints." He goes, "Probably my most favorite Ant-Man movie and best movie I've seen this year." And I was like,
Okay.
"Wow, cool." So like, there you go. Like for us who see a lot of movies and critique, there is a contingent of people who just watch movies whenever.
They don't care. Yeah, absolutely.
And they are in on it. They're in for this. Like there's the normie crowd.
No,
just
the
enjoyed
fan
a
will
movie.
always look at things different than we do, right? Because we have more base for comparison.
Absolutely.
The average fan goes to the films. I think the average is 7-8 times a year, and half of them are probably super. No, we
do a lot more than that.
Month. But I'm sure half of those, maybe more, are superhero films, the big budget, quote unquote films. So they don't see it. So yeah, they're not going to see it.
Right.
So I get it. So I always tell you the casual fan thinks differently, right?
But I the only reason I'm saying this as a caveat to like we both agree. Like I liked Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania because my kids liked it. As an adult, I thought it was man. So you know but it's all different levels. So for I know kids are appreciate it, and apparently normies appreciate it.
There are some that do,
so,
of course. It didn't make a lot of money, so I don't think it was greatly appreciated by.
So,
you know.
and what I'm saying is, even a loss, and by loss I mean not the level we want it to be, can still be considered a basic win for what you're trying to do as a business. But as an art form, I told them, if you like this, wait until Guardians Volume 3 hits Disney Plus.
Oh, exactly.
It's going to blow you out.
It's just a different level of film. It just is. I'm not saying Guardians 3 is the greatest I've ever seen, because it's not, but it's just a different level of film in comparison to that.
Right.
But this has been great, man. Everything I've wanted to hit has hit thus far, and I'm going to include Spiderverse, because I think, based on what we're seeing, it's not going to be a bad movie. I can't say, even if I don't think it's the greatest thing ever, I'm not going to walk out saying this sucks.
The quality drop is not going to be
right. Exactly.
It
may be a worst case. I think it's going to be great, like a Flash and Guardians, right? That level, fantastic.
Yeah, and that's not a bad place to be.
But for me, the big films, I had like 5 or 6 of them that this year had to hit for me. One was John Wick.
Right.
The other one was Guardians, Spiderverse, Flash, and Mission Impossible. Oppenheimer's the last one. So that's 6. Those are I got 2 left to see. Hopefully they hit. And I think Mission is, and Oppenheimer probably was. Well, yeah.
Oppenheimer.
No, right. So I'm not worried about either one of those two, to be honest with you. So this is, it's rare I get all my movies that I want to see all hit, because that doesn't always happen very often. It really doesn't.
Does it? Usually we're lucky 2 movies out of the entire year hit
the big ones
you wanted to hit.
Yeah.
And then you watch like one movie that surprisingly hits, and you didn't expect it. Like, wow, that was actually really good.
Hit. And who would have thought that was better than Ant-Man, for Christ's sake? It's just far better. I saw it again this weekend with the family. They hadn't seen it yet. Fun film, man. That was a surprise. I don't think we expected that either, right, at all. So, yeah, it's been a great year, man. So I'm excited, man. And, so that's awesome. We'll talk about Spider-Verse next week. But that being said, them the nuggets for today.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning into the show. We appreciate all the love you guys give us. Don't forget to like all the shows on the Latin Nerd Network here on YouTube, where you can watch Nerdsplaining, you can watch The Watch List, you can watch Thanos' Choice, and other shows we got coming up. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe here. Once again, we appreciate it. The more people like and subscribe, the more we get to do this, and we don't have to do other jobs, and we can do more of this stuff and have like fun other events that we can talk about and maybe showcase you more things as well. Don't forget, if you want to follow us on social media, we got at Nerdsplaining Pod on Instagram, at Nerdsplaining _ on Twitter. Well, as long as we're going to be there. Who knows? Also, don't forget, if you want to hear the original audio episodes, you can go to ericdasilva.com, ERICDASILVA. All the original audio episodes are there. And while you're there, don't forget to pick up my album, Adorably Offensive. I'm starting to go back on the road. Be going out here and there. I was just in Columbus, Georgia, and I'm going to be going on more places. So keep following me on Instagram or on Twitter, on my website, and more dates we post there as we go on as well. Don't forget to check out my other project, DangerSquad.com. If you are a nerd parent or a nerd who likes reading fun comic books, it's something coming up. It's working on more stuff. Going to be putting up pretty soon, but keep an eye on that website as well. And don't forget to let us know what you thought about what we talked about. Let us know what you want to talk about. Give us your takes about our takes. All that is included. We appreciate all that as well. Guys, as always, I have been Eric Da Silva. This has been Jose Romero. We have been Nerdsplaining. And if you don't know, now you know.